Alright, so this will be a tutorial on how to set up your Xlights channels to be able to import or convert your LOR LMS files into Xlights. I know I made a video on this about mid-year, but this is going to be more detail oriented around the actual channels themselves. If you're just setting Xlights up for the first time natively, it doesn't matter. Just dump a ton of channels on there, whatever you're actually going to need, full universes, and then you can map your models or put the channels specifically on your models and do it that way. But when you're doing a convert, your channels are already set up, and we need to set them up in Xlights the same exact way so that they read correctly out of LOR. And there's a ton of confusion out there on how that works, and a lot of people have just kind of fiddled with it until they got their stuff working. So I'm actually going to show you how to do this. One of the easier ways to figure out your channel layouts. So the first thing you want to do is click on Add E131, and this is just a blank, fresh install of Xlights. Nothing's been set up on here yet. So multicast, starting universe will be number 1, number of universes. It's however many universes you have in LOR. So if you've got 50 universes in LOR, do 50. Okay. For now, you can leave last channel at 512. This is not going to be your actual channel layout. This is going to be a dummy channel layout that we use to discover the way Xlights reads out of LOR your channels. So we'll save that. Now we're going to go look on the Convert tab. This right here, this little bit of text, entries on the Setup tab will guide the conversion. What this is also saying down here where it says LOR network should be first, followed by Dmx starting at universe 1. So this is saying when it pulls in your LOR unit IDs, unit ID and channel numbers, it's going to pull them in and it's going to put them on the top row, regardless of what universe number this is. So let's say you already have channels in LOR on universe 1. That's fine. Just create another E131 universe, starting universe number. So you've got 50 you're really using, so just create number 51. And it's going to stick that down here at the bottom. We need to move that to the top because that's what you're going to want to put your LOR networks on. So we'll just drag that up. Should have gone somewhere around 17 or 18, somewhere in this ballpark. Well, it should have. Let's see, where did it go? There's probably people that see it that I don't. Oh, right here. 6 went in after 16. So now we're going to keep on dragging it up. We're going to put it at the top. Alright, so if you're using a bridge, or if you're defining on a SAN device, or a J1 controller, or a Falcon, or whatever controller you want, if you're using that to output your LOR controllers in DMX, this is the universe now that you're gonna specify that as. So it'll be universe 51, and the number of channels on it is what we're going to discover here in just a minute. So we'll save that setup. Now, if we go back over here to the Convert tab, there's a few things that you need to know. All channels off at the end just means that all channels turn off at the end. Down here there's a ton of confusion, and I've read several different things this year about what's right and what's wrong. I can tell you after converting probably over a dozen people's shows from LOR to Xlights this year, the two things that you really need to have on is map empty LMS channels and show verbose channel data, okay, or map, whatever. I'll show you why. So let's uncheck this first. Let's just have show verbose channel map on here, okay? And we're going to import one of my smaller sequences. So here's one of my LOR sequences, okay? There's all my RGB data. Here's all of my incandescent lights, my LOR controllers. They do not have to be at the top in the LMS file. They do not have to be at the bottom. They can be anywhere. They do not have to be one after the other. They can be spread all over the place. Xlights will still recognize them and put them in the correct order. However, you can't skip channels, and we'll get into more of that detail on that here in just a minute. So right here, this singing tree number 1 is channels 1 through 16. Well, I have no sequencing on this particular song for those channels. So let's run an import on this real quick, and let's just see what happens without map empty LMS channels turned on. So choose files. Let's go into my documents, Lotterama, sequences. You have to pick LMS file down here so it pulls up the right files. Fire hazard, and we'll hit OK, and we will start that conversion. So here we go. Alright, so that conversion is done now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to scroll all the way back up here to the top. This is all your channels where it shows what it mapped them to. Of course, you're going to get tons of errors right now because we're just using this, excuse me, as a dummy sequence. or as a dummy channel layout to find out what our real channel layout needs to be. So if you look here, if you had map empty LMS channels unchecked, any channel that doesn't have data in it, when it looks over at LOR, it's going to ignore it. So it says LOR network 55 channels. That is not correct. I have 96 LOR channels. As you can see here, each one of these lines is 16 channels, and I have 6 boxes. 6 times 16 is 96. So I have 96 LOR channels. However, I have channels that are not being used. They're extras, like this unit 6-16. That one's empty because that's an extra channel that I have. It still needs to be in here. And also have singing faces that have no data on them. So it skipped every one of those, which is going to throw off your overall channel count. And remember, your LOR goes on the top. So if it throws everything off the top, it's going to throw everything off below it. So that's got to be right from the word go. So now if we click map empty LMS channels and we rerun that conversion, we'll do that now. Alright, so now that new conversion is done. Now if we scroll all the way back up here to the top here, and we go right underneath track length, we'll see that the LOR network, it now found 96 channels, which is correct. That's how many I do have, which is awesome. That means everything after it is going to be correct as well. Now if you want to know what your setup tab needs to look like, select this right underneath track length and scroll all the way down until you see total channels. Whoa, went too far. Total channels right there, 14,055. Now, you want to copy this. For some reason, the right click and copy doesn't work here. Don't know why. So you have to actually select, mess this up. Select them in between track length and hit Control C. Now, I downloaded OpenOffice for this because I like the way it pastes a little better. I'm sure there's a way to do it in Excel, but in OpenOffice, you just hit Control V, and then you can hit spaces in between each column, and it'll space them all out. If you just do it in Excel, it doesn't space them all out nice and clean. So this is now our channel lineup. This is how it read it out of LOR. This is how you need to map your channels on the setup tab. I mean, one-to-one across all the way through there. Now, of course, this it's whatever universe you defined as the top universe. It's just going to be 0 right now because it doesn't know what universe you want to define it as. But it's still going to put it on the top regardless. You got to keep that in mind. And the zeros, it's going to read them as 0, so it's not going to map anything to them. But you want to when you define them in Xlights, you want to give them a channel number. So let me show you how that works. So if we go back to our setup tab now, and this is where we're going to actually create our setup. So what I'm going to do is switch back to my real Xlights setup now. So we'll go to Libraries, Documents, Xlights, select Folder, and we're going to go in here to my actual setup tab. Everything matches now. If you look here, channel, this is actually going to be Universe 67 for me, but it's the one on top, so of course Xlights doesn't care, it just marks it as 0. So 67, and then starting with Universe 1, I have 0 channels on Universe 1 in my LMS files. Back in the day, I had some dumb RGB on Universe 1 and 2. I don't use that anymore, so now it's just 0 channels. But in Xlights, I just put it as 300. It doesn't matter. You've got to give it a number. It doesn't matter what it is. It's not going to throw off your channel counts at all. But because Xlights is going to read it correctly and put everything exactly where it's supposed to be. So 1 and 2, 0 channels, I made them as 300 like I said. 3 and 4, 510, matches perfectly. Universe 5 is 18 channels, so I've got it over here at 18 channels. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 are all zeros for me, so over here I just put them as 300. 12 and 13, 510. 147, etc. If you go all the way down there and look, Universe 21 is 60, Universe 26, 27, 28, and all that's 150. So, as you can see, this is exactly how your channels need to be set up. This is the way it read it when it scanned your LOR file, so this is the way that you need to set up the setup tab in order to have a conversion work successfully. Now, mine was pretty simple. Mine was just 96 channels. I didn't have any channels missing. Everything was in order. There was no deleted channels. There was no missing controllers. The controllers go from controller 1 to controller 2, controller 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, what if yours don't? A lot of people, and this is where a lot of people have had nightmare times with LOR this year. converting it to Xlights is over the years you've gotten tracks that gone bad. You've had overloaded boxes where you've had to split things up and move them over into different spots. You've sold controllers to other people, so you just deleted those channels out of your LMS file. You've deleted parts of your display, like spiral trees or whatever, that you don't use anymore. You converted them over to pixels, so you just got rid of those controllers, but you saw no reason to go back in and renumber your controllers in LOR, because LOR still outputted them just fine. Well, Xlights will not read them just fine when you have all of that craziness going on. You're going to have to organize your channels first in your LMS file before you try to run a convert on it. So let me show you an example of a user that had those that I had to help fix. So here is a Wizards in Winter file. As you can see, if we look here at yard number red 7, it's on unit number 16, circuit number 7. Now if we go the very next one below it, it's on unit number 10, circuit number 7. This isn't a problem. You can have everything jumbled up in here like this. The only problem is he skipped all of those channels in between. In other words, they're not in here anywhere. So they're not up here somewhere. They're just not there. They're deleted completely out of his show. I mean, you can have everything moved around however you want to. You can move face 4 above face 1. It doesn't matter. Xlights is still going to pick it up. There's been some confusion on that this year. I've read several posts. Everybody said you got to have everything in order perfectly, 1 through whatever, and it's got to be laid out in order. It doesn't necessarily have to be laid out in order. You just have to have everything in your LMS file. So what I had to do was take his LMS file first, and the way you do this is go to Tools, Channel Configuration, and you hit Print, and you want to print this out to a PDF file, and then you're going to have to copy that PDF file into Excel. You probably going to want to use OpenOffice so that you can put the spaces in between it correctly, and then you're going to need to filter and sort it out so that you know what's actually missing. Okay, and then once you know what's missing in your sequences, if you have 4 or 5 controllers, that's pretty easy to see. But this guy had like 30 or 40 LOR controllers, which made it difficult to figure out what was missing. I had to put it out into Excel and sort it to find it. Once you've done that, then you've got to go add those channels back in. So what I did, if you look here, this is his same channel configuration. There's our North Yard red. So what I did here was I went and created a group down here called Extras, and I just put it at the bottom of his AC channels, and I added back in all his extra channels that he was missing. These are not in any kind of order. As you can see, they jump all over the place, but they're all there now. So if he skipped channels up above in his actual AC channels, I just added them down here, put them back in, so that when Xlights reaches out to LOR and says, hey, send me your channels out the front door, and it starts counting them one by one, these no longer will be missing. They'll fall in line just like they're supposed to. Now, one of the other problems I had with his was he skipped boxes. So he had entire boxes that were missing. So it'd go from unit number 5 all the way to unit number 7. There wouldn't even be a unit number 6. So what I had to do was have him actually physically renumber that controller. So he had to go and get his controller, load it up in the hardware utility, and change that unit ID. Say if it was unit ID 35, which was totally random and just way out there, he used it because he knew he didn't have anything on it, but he needs to put it in line with the rest of the stuff. So he just changed it over, and I'll show you what that looks like here. So, and this is the Excel spreadsheet I made for him to show him how to actually bring his channels in. So if you're looking here, it was box number 22. It's just totally random out there by itself. Well, he had skipped box number 6. So we have to have a box number 6. If you don't, what happens when Xlights goes to read these channels, it's going to go from 516, which is Xlights channel 80, to 71, which is supposed to be Xlights channel 97, but that moves up and becomes channel 81. I hope that made sense. So if you skipped up channels, it's going to move those up. Well, it's not going to output correctly to your LOR boxes, and your conversion is not going to work. It's going to mess everything up below it. Same thing happens up top. If we look here, his first controller was perfect. He actually had all of those in the sequence. The second controller, though, if we look, it made it down to channel number 15, and then he skipped channel 16. He had deleted that out of there. So I had to add that back in to a sequence, and that's going to be one of those ones that's located, if we look here, down below in the extras. It's going to be 2-16. That one's 2-13. It's down here somewhere. I'm certain of that. I had to add it in here. But I had to do that all the way through here. Add those channels back in that were missing, that he had just deleted out of his controllers in the past. Now, once I added everything back in, it worked perfectly. Now, one of the other key notes to keep in mind is the way LOR works is LOR does not technically go from unit number 9 to unit number 10. It has the 0A, the 0B. He had never used those before, the 0A, the 0B, 0C, and a lot of people don't. They just went from 9 to 10. Well, if you just go from 9 to 10, you're skipping all of these channels. So when Xlights goes to do its conversion, it doesn't see any of these channels. It skips them all, and it takes this, which should be 241 on box number 10, and it puts it all the way down here on 145, which is incorrect because it skipped all that stuff. That stuff needs to be in there, so you're going to have to renumber your boxes. So that's what you see here. It was box number 16 in the setup before. I changed this to box 0A. Okay, so in order to do that, all I pretty much did was, back on his LOR sequences, is I added the extra channels below, and then up here I went back in and I changed these channels that needed to be changed to whatever they needed to be changed to, OC6 for example. The easiest way to do that is through the tools, channel configuration, and to go in here and change them this way. That's the quickest way to do it, because you can just do drop downs, change your channels, and go down there and change every one of them. This is not going to be a quick process, especially if you have 30 or 40 LOR boxes. It's going to take you a few hours to clean this up. One of the other options that you have to clean up your channels is you could just create a Dmx Universe, because that's basically what it's doing, is turning all this into a Dmx Universe anyway, and you can start pasting them in. However, when you do that, you've got to make sure that you paste this stuff in correctly. So whatever your starting one is, I think his white is actually number 1. Yeah. So unit 1, circuit 1. If it jumps around, if it goes to unit 4, circuit number 4, you can't just select all this and copy paste it into your universe. You're going to have to put all this stuff in order, which if you've ever tried to drag channels around in LOR when you have a couple hundred of them and put them in order so you can copy paste, there's a long pause. I mean, my computer is exceptionally beefy, and it's still thinking about it. It may even crash. I don't know. So, but anyways, the long story short is it's easier to do this by changing your channels and getting them correct to begin with. Now, once you've done that, you can run your conversions just as smooth as can be. I'm not going to go into how to do this via channel layout. I mean, can't even think what I'm thinking of here. I'm not going to go into how to map these for data layers, or how to import them as effects. There's already 2 good videos of that already out there. Daniel Culp's got one, and I'll link both of those videos in the description. His is right. Import effects tutorial. It's right there. That's Daniel Culp's video. And then Gil's got one as well. See if I can find that here. Look for his little Snoopy icon. There he is. And Gil's is actually importing as a data layer. So there's already 2 good videos out there, but the prerequisite to both those videos is that you get your channels right. You're not going to be able to import correctly unless your channels are actually set up correct. So hopefully that will help you out to help you organize how to set up your channels. I'll show you real quickly what happens with his channels when they're not done right. So here's his original LMS file with channels all a mess and all out of order and those extra channels deleted. So let's try to import it first. So let me get it out of the way. And let's go into convert. Let's see what we're on here. We're on my actual setup, so we're not going to stay on my actual setup. We'll go back to one. It's just a blank one. The new one, we'll use the new one that we created. How's that? And we'll go into convert, and we'll go over and choose files, and we'll find his, I think it's in Xlights Jeff, Wizards and Winter, and we'll run a conversion on that, and you'll see what crazy numbers it actually comes up with. So here we go. Alright, so now we're gonna go scroll back up. That chat's completely converted, and we're gonna look, and you can see it found 319 LOR channels. That is absolutely not correct, because if we look here and we go 319 divided by 16, it's not even, it's not even divisible by 16. It came up with 19.9. So it's absolutely not mapping those correct. It's all out of whack, and that's what happens when you have controllers skipped, controllers deleted, channels deleted. That's this setup here. Now I'll show you what happens when I import after I fixed it, renumbered the channels to make the channels be in sequential order, nothing skipped, and all the channels added back in at the bottom that were missing. So let me show you that import. This is Carol of the Bells. Let me go find that. So if we go choose files, I believe that is in my OneDrive. Public. It's not Winners and Winter. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for choose files, OneDrive, public. I have no idea what's happening here. Did I delete that? I don't know what just happened there. But anyway, so now if I start this conversion, and we'll let it run through. Alright, so this is the convert after I fixed all the channels. We'll scroll back up. We'll go look. Found 336 LOR channels. If we look at the Excel file of his networks where I fixed them, we scroll all the way down to the bottom. 336 is how many he actually has now. So it's reading them correctly, it's putting them in the right spots, and it'll output them correctly as well. So he has all of these LOR boxes here. It's not really just 15 because you've got to count these OA, OB, OCs, whatever. So it's got them all in the right order now, and it got them correct. So this is his actual channel layout. So if I was to just copy all of this, just like so, Control C. Oh, I missed one, sorry. So everything between total channels and track length, Control C. If I copied all of that, if I went into here, let's just create a new one. New spreadsheet, Control V, space them out. Here's his channel layout. I actually created this for him as well, so if I go over here and I change this to his channel layout file, I don't know why it keeps asking for that file. Let me restart Xlights here. It just kept asking for Wizards and Winter. I probably messed with too much, changed the setup too many times on it, confused it up a little bit. So Jeff's Xlights fixed. This should have his correct channel layout, and it should match what's over here that we got on the export as well on the convert tab. So there it all is. Everything should match perfectly. The top row is 336. This next one down is 237. The next one's down 108. So if you're looking back and forth here, they match up perfectly. So his convert will work perfectly. Now, the one spot where he had zeros, of course, Xlights won't let you put in a zero on the setup tab, so you're going to have to put something in there. So 19 and 20, I think we defined for his as 450. Mine, I used 300, he used 450. It doesn't matter. Like I said, it's zero, so it's not going to map any channels there anyway. It's just really going to skip right over them and go to 21. But it will still map the channels correctly in order. So if we go to 21, it's 150. All the way down through there. Everything matches up. 29, 141, 29, 141. So once you've done this, this is how you create your setup in order to match LOR perfectly, so you can have smooth imports, smooth converts, and create new sequences in Xlights using data layers. So hopefully that clears up any kind of confusion. If you get any questions, let me know. I'm always around via Facebook, email, all the different forums. So hopefully that'll help you out a little bit. Have a good one.